All right, Matt Hall and Jeffrey Martin. I believe we're inside of Gallagher-Iba Arena technically right now, outside of T-Boone Pickens Stadium. I'm not sure. We're close to it. Somewhere in Stillwater after K-State's thrilling 45-40 win over Oklahoma State in Stillwater. A lot happened today. Very exciting finish. Can you try to collect your thoughts and tell us what you take away from this, Jeff?
What I take away from it is K-State was a little bit better today from start to finish. I feel like Oklahoma State started getting hot late. I thought Mason Rudolph got some momentum late, but let's be honest, for probably for the last 5.5 quarters of play, this K-State defense has been up to the task. The kind of defense that, you know, if this effort had been around all year, like maybe we were looking at a totally different scenario with this K-State team, regardless of quarterback. But we saw a good performance by Skylar Thompson. We saw Byron Pringle was ridiculous. And this is your Cats. They're both eligible, so congrats.
Yeah, that defense you're talking about goes, a second half against West Virginia, then 3.5 quarters today, giving up maybe a total of 20 points to two really good offenses. A lot of guys are talking about, I think Byron Pringle is the one you mentioned today. A touchdown catches of 47, 46, and 70 yards, 89-yard kickoff return. Guy certainly had some of his struggles this year, but what a great day for Byron Pringle, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel good for that guy. That guy's been a stand-up dude. He's showed up and talked to us, and, at times, I think he knows, he's aware, he doesn't want to make eye contact, understands the backlash. Early on, we kept asking, Bill Snyder about the drops, and we're obviously talking about Byron. And for a guy who never left the starting lineup, just went out there and blocked, probably fighting his way through those drops, it's pretty cool to see that happen today because he earned that. He deserved that.
Another guy to talk about, of course, is Skylar Thompson. The numbers, I believe, 10 of 13, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, virtually a perfect day throwing the football. Then he carries it. I think ends up 16 times for 92, but at one point he was over 100 yards before sacks. So, again, almost perfect throwing it, runs for 100 yards and a score. Tough environment here in Stillwater. A great day for Skylar Thompson, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been saying consistently that guy's a gamer. I had no doubt that he would play well today on the road. Against a ranked opponent, his second start. I think it's pretty disappointing how he played last week. I get that, but took all the reps, pretty confident. Thought he'd be a little banged up. He looked pretty good for the most part. They didn't throw the ball a ton. But, I'm calling him the natural, man. That's what he was. I mean, those throws, he dropped those things in a bucket to Pringle. Just a great game. I mean, honestly, if that's what play from K-State quarterbacks looks like moving forward for the next couple of years, I think you can live with that.
And I think while we're praising guys, of course, DJ Reed, a huge part of this team out today. A.J. Parker steps into his spot. Duke Shelley gets a big interception on a deep ball to James Washington. Kendall Adams has one. You already mentioned the defense, so I know making you come back into it. Gave up a lot of points, of course, gave a lot of passing yards, but did enough to win today ultimately.
4 sacks of Mason Rudolph. Kyle Ball, I think, had a couple, I think he had a couple. It's one of those things where this defense been maligned, been just called everything bend don't break. We were picking on them on the way down here in the car, and deservedly so, for being frank. But they made a guy like Mason Rudolph a surefire NFL first rounder whenever he decides to come out. A guy top passer in the Big 12, made him look pretty mediocre, average. I don't know if it was a matter of this was more him than K-State. It doesn't matter. You only get 12 of these games. You got to be up for all of them. He wasn't on his game today. K-State benefits.
So K-State is now 6-5, bowl eligible. We'll be playing in postseason play, even if they happen not to win next week. They do get Iowa State at home next week, who beat Baylor today, a chance to get to 7 wins. And we'll wrap up with this. We talked about over there, if my math's right, I think it's a chance for K-State to finish out 4-1 after a rough start and head into potentially bowl season 7-5, and the season feeling different than it did just a few weeks ago.
This season, honestly, from week to week, it's been ridiculous. It is so hard to kind of just when you think you have it figured out, then something like this happens today. Yes, when you said that 4-1, that was startling for me to think, but it's true. And then when you also think about that, they probably should have beaten West Virginia last week. Now you're looking at potentially 4-0, and the whole complexion of the season is completely different. And now the whole tone, the stuff that we've been talking about, and we'll probably touch on in a podcast. That's a plug coming up soon. But I think suddenly all this calculus that we've been discussing, I think that changes. It's altered slightly as well.
It's going to be fascinating. We'll talk a lot more about it in that podcast. But a roller coaster ride for sure. There's one more stop in the regular season next week against Iowa State. For Matt Hall and Jeff Martin, thanks for watching this on K-State Online. And perhaps you could do us a favor and
tell your friends.